Welcome back. Klal Yisroel is standing before Matan Torah. There was one final evaluation that had to take place. Hashem sends Moshe to ask Klal Yisroel if they want the guide, if they want this ultimate guide that will teach them and show them and pave the way for them to become the ultimate servant. Klal Yisroel passes this test with flying colors. Klal Yisroel responds, Na'aseh v'nishma, we will do and we will hear. They responded to both questions. We will do as servants, but also we will hear. We will try to understand what it means to also be a child as a servant. Chazal tell us when Klal Yisroel said Na'aseh v'nishma, because of that they received 2 crowns. They reached the level of being again the ultimate human being. The human being that can, on the one hand, be connected to a physical world and yet know that every action that he does or could do needs to be in service of Hashem. And on the other hand, be on a level knowing that only physical actions that are in service of Hashem matter and everything else doesn't matter. Know that they have the power of B'Tselem Elokim and therefore need to, and since they're able to, are obligated to reach higher and higher and higher until they reach the ultimate service and therefore bringing the world back to its level of where it was and where it was supposed to be. Klal Yisroel, by answering Na'aseh v'nishma, finally were able to put themselves in a position. We are again the ultimate human beings who are now ready to receive the guide and therefore be able to start climbing the ladder of becoming the ultimate servants of Hashem. But Hashem still had one thing that he had to teach them and he had to show them, a message that he had to give through Moshe. Tell Klal Yisroel, the guide that I'm about to give them is not just going to be a guide that one would give to a servant. This guide is going to be something someone would give to a child. What does that mean? It means, tell Klal Yisroel, that not only is this guide going to have technical details in it of how they can use the ideas in this guide to become ultimate servants, but also the guide itself, every word, every letter in this guide can bring them closer to the ultimate goal. An unbelievable secret that can only be given to a child. A regular servant might be given some ideas of what they can do, but a child is given the inner secrets of tricks and shortcuts of how they can reach the highest levels of service. Hashem was prepared to give Klal Yisroel the Torah, something that was created 2,000 years before the world itself, something that has in it the power to create worlds. Hashem was prepared to give this to Klal Yisroel as a child, as children. But for that, they needed 3 days of separation. 3 days where they would prepare to be able to prepare themselves to sacrifice themselves completely from any human connection. And as we will see, when Moshe Rabbeinu himself had to go up, he had to sacrifice his entire being from any human connection for 40 days and 40 nights. Klal Yisroel, in preparation of receiving the Torah, had to do that for 3 days, not to that extent, but to a certain extent, separate themselves from human obligations, separate themselves from any yearning towards human ideas and human wants. Finally, after 3 days, Klal Yisroel was ready willing and able, as they say, to receive this ultimate guide, to receive the Torah. But Hashem was not done yet. Chazal tell us, Hashem picks up Mount Sinai, Kof Aleim Har Kegigis, he puts it on top of the heads of Klal Yisroel, and he says to Klal Yisroel, if you accept this Torah, good. Otherwise, this is the end. Why indeed would Hashem take Mount Sinai and take this incredible step when Klal Yisroel was already willing and able and already said Na'aseh v'nishma? Because there was one last lesson that Klal Yisroel had to learn before receiving the guide. Yes, this guide is going to be something one would only give to a child. Yes, this guide is going to be something that could purify any being that follows it. Yes, this guide is going to have shortcuts in it through which a child that is a servant can reach the highest levels in mere seconds. Yes, indeed, this is something that will bring reward to these children that are servants. However, Hashem needed to tell Klal Yisroel, remember, this is not something that one receives as a want. This is not about something that we want. This is about something that we're told. Klal Yisroel just to stand there and say, we see the glory, we see the beauty, and therefore we want, that was not enough to receive this incredible guide. Klal Yisroel had to be a level of understanding, of knowing this is something we need to do. This is something we must do. Because this is the only way they would survive. The only way to survive in this world that is not the perfect world. The only way for them to survive after what we will see will happen after Matan Torah is by knowing that this is something we must do. Merely by knowing this is something we wanted at some point because we saw the glory, that was not enough. Klal Yisroel had to know this is something we must do. And as we will see, of course 900 years later, Bimei Mordechai ve'Esther, Kimu ve'Kiblu, they again repeated this action of understanding that they want and accept the Torah as something that they want out of love. But now was the time to receive the Torah with the clarity of knowing this is something that we must do, and if we don't do it, this is the end. Moreover, this was not even a threat. This was reality itself. As we discussed, the whole purpose of the world was to have a world that will have in it a being that could choose to do the right thing, that could choose to be of service to his master, that could choose right over wrong, b'tselem Elokim, by being able to know right over wrong, by being able to have the image of God, by being able to create worlds or ruin worlds. However, as we discussed, we lost all that by Chet Adam Harishon, and it took until this point, until Mount Sinai, to get the world back to that level, to get the human being back to that level, to choose a nation that would be a nation of servants, that together as one, they would be able to reach this highest goal and purpose of the world. But in order to accomplish that, they had to know that this is something they must do. And if they don't do it, this would be the end of the world, because there would be no other purpose in this world. Chazal tell us the whole world was shaking out of fear of what might happen if Klal Yisroel said no, because indeed the world itself knew that if there would be no ultimate being, that if there would be no ultimate servant, the world would cease to exist as we know it. And of course, Klal Yisroel accepted. And Hashem himself opened up their eyes to be able to see the glory, to see their master, and to hear from him himself what exactly they're supposed to do, what exactly they're supposed to remember, how they're supposed to lead their lives as servants. Thank you for joining me again today. I look forward to continuing this discussion with you. Meanwhile, you might want to check out our other podcast, the Rabbi Yankel's podcast, a weekly podcast where we discuss ideas that Rabbi Yankele Galinsky told us in his long and enduring life. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to send them in. We would love to discuss it. Thank you and have a wonderful day.